To get started with Blendimation, you must first delete everything in the scene. After that, head to the Setup tab in the Blendimation panel. Line up the label names until all the text is visible and has no periods. Now you want to click Add Camera. This will set up a camera in the correct position for the frames to be placed in the scene. If you have audio in the video sequencer, click Sync Audio so you can animate lip and mouth movements. Now you can add a background and foreground along with an additional 2 other foreground images. Make sure you click the Parent Background button after you have added a background and foreground. If there are any problems, you can use the Redo Background and Foreground button to try again. After clicking the Redo Background and Foreground button, if there were any leftover background and foreground images, you should delete them before adding any more. For better performance, you can use the Switch to Workbench button, which will change the render engine to Workbench so that way you can have a more fluid drawing experience. Before moving on, make sure you set up your image file path. That way your drawings will save in the correct location. Now with everything set up, you can switch to the Animate tab. Start on any frame you'd like, and when you're ready, click the Add Cells button. When adding a cell stack, you can edit it on the frame it was created on. There will be a bit of text on the left-hand side to indicate what frame it was created on. If you click the Next Stack button, it will move the camera up as well as the frame. You can click the Last Stack button to move the camera down as well as the frame. Below that, you have your Layers box. Select a cell or cell stack and select a letter to move it to that layer. To select a cell, open the Cell Stack menu and click on the icon below the cell you want to select. This includes the onion skin layer as well. To select a cell stack, click the button labeled Cell. Clicking this button will enable the onion skin layer, which will show you the previous frame's line cell. Clicking this button will let you start drawing on the line cell. It will take you into texture paint mode. When you're finished drawing, you can either click the Object Mode button, which will take you out of texture paint mode, or you can select a separate cell with their labeled buttons. Remember to click the Save Image button on each cell you have drawn on. The Shadow, Fill, and Sketch cells work the same as the line cell. Before we move on, if you want to move or animate the cell or cell stack, select the Cell Stack menu and another menu will appear. Click it. Here you will be able to precisely move, rotate, and scale your cells. After you're finished with that, you can click this button to add a keyframe with a Bezier interpolation. To animate the background and/or foreground, open the BFG menu. The buttons in the middle, starting with the first, are to add a keyframe for your background and foreground. The next 3 buttons are to move, rotate, or scale your background and/or foreground. The last button is to close the menu. The first button on the left side allows you to select the background. The second button sets it back to its default scale, location, and rotation. The 2 buttons on the right-hand side do the same thing, but for the foreground. The FG 2 and 3 menu set up the foreground 2 and 3 for scale, rotation, and location, and adding a keyframe, if you were to add a second or third foreground. The last step in your animation is to animate the camera. In this menu, you can have the camera hold on to a cell for more frames, and also move the camera to the next stack or any of the stacks you have drawn. The first button allows you to select the camera so you can see the keyframes on the timeline. The next button adds a keyframe to the camera with constant interpolation. That way the camera moves immediately to the next cell. The buttons on the left allow you to move the camera up and down. The buttons on the right allow you to move the camera and the frame up and down. And this allows you to manually change the keyframe. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to get this add-on, check out the links in the description. And if you make anything cool, share them on Twitter and tag me @VaguelyB. I would love to see what you make.